Hello and welcome to our video on our Functional Skills Maths Level 1 and 2 course on adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing decimals. Our learning outcome is to add, subtract, multiply and divide decimals up to 2 decimal places for Level 1 or 3 decimal places for Level 2. The linked learning is that we've already add, subtracted, multiplied and divide whole numbers, and whichever method you're using to do those, you can apply to decimals. So when we had 56 and we were going to add 12, we would do the column method. 6 plus 2 is 8, 5 plus 1 is 6. And it's no different than if you had decimals. All you need to remember is to line up the decimal places. So we're going to look at each of the functions for our decimals. We're going to look at adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing these decimals. We're going to show you the manual methods that you'll need for section A of your exam, and we'll also mention some of the top tips for section B when you can use your calculator. Decimals are a really important topic with respect to functional skills, as it relates to money and the fact that you have 2 decimal places when you talk about pence in money. So you get lots and lots of questions on decimals across both of your sections for your exam. Okay, let's look at adding our decimals first. Now we'll use the column method as our preferred method for adding and subtracting. But if you do have the other methods that you've used just for doing whole numbers, then that still applies and works with decimals. So here we have 2.68 plus 1.57. Now the thing to remember when you're adding decimals is line up the decimal point. So here we have 8 plus 7, so start at the right hand end, and you have 15. 6 plus 5 is 11, plus the one we already have is 12. Don't forget to put in your decimal point. And 2 plus 1 gives us 4. So 2.68 plus 1.57 is 4.25. Here are 4 for you to have a go at. These are 2 decimal places and addition, so it's just like adding money. Have a go. You can pause the video if you want to give yourself more time, but I'll reveal the answers in a few moments. How did you get on with those? Now have a go at adding decimals with 3 decimal places. The technique is exactly the same. Hopefully you got all those correct as well. Subtracting decimals is exactly the same, where we can use the column method if that's your preferred method. So let's have a look at how we do this. We've got 5.24, take away 3.46. So line them up with the decimal points and then work from right to left. So 6 from 4 doesn't go. We need to borrow 1 from the next number along. 6 from 14 is 8. 4 from 1 doesn't go. We need to borrow 1 from the next one along. 4 from 11 is 7. Don't forget the decimal point. And 3 from 4 is 1. So 5.24 minus 3.46 is 1.78. You can think of these as money, £5.24, and you take away £3.46. One of the favourite questions you get is where you pay for something in money and the pounds have to be turned into pence with all of those zeros. So for example, if I bought something for £1.27 and I paid with a fiver, how much change would I expect? Then the maths for doing this would look like this. £5 is 5.00, £1.27 is 1.27, and it gives us a lot of zeros where we need to go and borrow from the bigger numbers. So let's look at this in the column method. 7 from 0 doesn't go, so we need to borrow 1 from the next one along. But we can't because there's nothing there. So we need to borrow 1 from the next one along, so the 5 becomes a 4, and this one becomes a 10. We still need to borrow 1 from this number, so it's a 10, we can borrow 1 and turn it into a 9, and the one we've borrowed becomes here. So now we have 10 take away 7, which is 3, 9 take away the 2, which is 7, don't forget your decimal point, and 4 take away the 1, which is a 3. So £5 take away £1.27 is £3.73. Here are some decimal subtractions for you to have a go at, and these have all got 2 decimal places. How did you get on with those? And here's some practice with subtractions of decimals with 3 decimal places. Again, hopefully you got all of those correct. Here's an example of an addition and subtraction of decimals from practice exam paper. Andrea goes to Starbucks for her lunch. She buys a cappuccino for £3.65 and a Danish pastry for £2.58. She pays with a £10 note. How much change does she get? So a very functional skills way of asking you to add, then subtract decimals. So from scratch we have 3.65 and we need to add it to the 2.58. So add the 2 together. 8 plus 5 is 13. 6 plus 5 is 11, plus the 1 I've carried is 12. And 3 plus 2 is 5, plus the 1 I've carried is 6. So the food and drink costs her £6.23. And now we have to work out how much change she gets from £10. So this is our subtraction. So remember, we can't take away 3 from 0, so we can't borrow from the next or the next, so we need to borrow from the first one, which we then borrow from the second, and then we borrow from the third. So 3 from 10 is 7, 2 from 9 is 7, and 9 take away 6 is 3. So I'm expecting £3.77 in change. Let's look at an exam style question. They tend to be in section A, the non-calculator bit, when you're doing basic addition and subtraction of decimals. So let's just do this in our column method. So 14.73, and we're going to add 18.49. So 9 plus 3 is 12. 7 plus 4 is 11, plus the one we carried is 12. Put in our decimal point. 8 plus 4 is 12, plus the one we carried is 13. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus the one we carried is 3. So 33.22 for the correct answer. So here's a level 2 example of an exam question, and it's asking you to subtract 2.835 from 7. So if you think of how we dealt with money, the number 7 can have as many zeros as you like after it. We need to line up the decimal places and then do the calculation. So we can't take 5 from 0, so we need to borrow along the line. So we borrow 1 from the 7, which we then borrow, passing it down the line. So 5 from 10 is 5, 3 from 9 is 6, 8 from 9 is 1, and 6 take away 2 is 4. So the answer, 4.165. Now let's look at multiplying decimals. In order to multiply a decimal, all you really need to do is take away or remove the decimal point, keeping track of how many you've moved, and then do the calculation with whole numbers and then move the decimal points back. So here I've moved the decimal point 1 place here and 1 place here. So I've moved it 2 places to the right, and all I need to remember at the end is to move it 2 places to the left when I get my answer to this little calculation. So we'll use the box method this time. So we've got 24 times 35. So 2 times 3 is 6, and we have 2 zeros. 5 times 2 is 10, with just the 1 0. 4 times 3 is 12, with a 0. And 4 times 5 is 20. Add each of the columns, so we have 120, and we have 720, and then add the two numbers together. So our total is 840. So that would be the result of multiplying 24 by 35. But remember at the start, we removed the decimal point to the right once here and once here, giving us 2 moves to the right. We need to move it 2 places to the left. So if the decimal point's here, because that's where the whole number finishes, 1 place, 2 places to the left gives us 8.4 as our answer to this problem here. Be aware, especially at level 2 or anyone going on to GCSEs, that one of their favourite questions in an exam looks like this. They'll give you 2 small decimals to multiply, and everyone just looks at it and goes, oh yes, it's 0.6. But try and use the method I've just shown you. So take the decimal places away first, so you've moved it 2 places to the right, and it becomes 3 times 2, which is 6. Now this 6 has a decimal point here. That's where the whole number ends. But don't forget, we've got to move it 2 places to the left. So 1 place to the left is here. Another place to the left means our decimal point is there, and we need to infill with a 0 to hold our place value. So 0.3 times 0.2 is actually 0.06. And a lot of people get that wrong in the exam because they think it's 0.6 and it's not. Okay, have a go at multiplying some decimals. These have 1 decimal place. Don't forget to pause the video if you want to give yourself more time to complete these before I show you the answers. And here are those answers. And here are those answers. And I'll show you the first one manually and then just give you the answers to the following 3. So we have 5.9 times 2.3. So we can remove the decimal places. So we have 59 times 23. So 5 times 2 is 10 with 2 zeros. 5 times 3 is 15 with 1 0. 9 times 2 is 18 with 1 0. And 3 times 9 is 27. Add the columns. And then add these 2 numbers. Now, don't forget you moved it 2 places to the right, so we need to move it 2 places to the left. So the answer is 13.57. Here are the answers to the other 3 questions. Did you get all of those correct? Here's an example in functional skills type questions where they're going to get you to multiply decimals. So Bob needs 12 valves for a plumbing job. Each valve costs £1.15. How much will they cost in total? So we've got 12 valves at £1.15. So the problem is 12 times 1.15. So to do this, we move the decimal place out the way. So it's 2 decimal places to the right, and it becomes 12 times 115. So we have 115 times 12. So 1 times 1 is 1 with 3 zeros. 1 times 10 times 10 is 100. 5 times 10 is 50. 2 times 100 is 200. 2 times 10 is 20. 5 times 2 is 10. Add the columns together. And then add these 2 totals here. So the number we get from doing the calculation is 1380. What we need to remember is move the decimal point 2 places to the left again. So the whole number finishes here. So 1, 2 places to the left gives us our correct answer of 13.8. So in money, don't forget to put the zeros in. So it's £13.80 for your answer. Because how much will it cost? 13.8, but don't forget the zero because money always has 2 decimal places. And that is a bit of a gotcha when you're doing functional skills maths. They'll give you calculations where you've got the one of the decimal places. You need to remember that money has 2 decimal places. Okay, let's look at dividing decimals now. So if we're going to divide a decimal with a whole number, then we can just keep the decimal point where it is. So 8.64 divided by 6 becomes quite literally 8.64 divided by 6. And we just keep the decimal point where it is when we do the division. So 6 goes into 8 once, remainder 2. 6 goes into 26 4 times, remainder 2. And 6 goes into 24 4 times. So 8.64 divided by 6 is 1.44. Sometimes we create a decimal when we divide 2 whole numbers. So for example, 10 divided by 4 is 10 divided by 4. So 4 doesn't go into 1, carry the 1. 4 goes into 10 twice, remainder 2. Now because the whole number finishes here, we need to remember to put in our decimal point. Don't forget you've got as many zeros after the decimal point as you want. So 4 goes into 20 5 times, and it goes exactly 5 times. So it's 2.5. So 10 divided by 4 is 2.5. Finally, what do we do when we have a decimal divided by a decimal? Now, if you do get something complicated like this second decimal will only ever have 1 decimal place. And the trick is to make this second number a whole number by moving the decimal point one place to the right. If you move this decimal place one place to the right as well, it means that your answer would be the same. So just like a fraction, if you do the same thing to the top and the bottom, your answer is still the same. So it's the same here. 2.45 divided by 0.7 is exactly the same answer as 24.5 divided by 7. So let's do this calculation and see what we get. So we have 24.5 divided by this whole number 7. 7 doesn't go into 2, carry the 2. 7 goes into 24 3 times. 3 sevens are 21, so I have a remainder of 3. 7 goes into 35 5 times. So 2.45 divided by 0.7 is 3.5. We don't have to move anything back because when we move this decimal place, we move that decimal place. And if you do the same thing to the top and the bottom of a fraction, you get the same answer. Here are some division of decimals for you to have a go at. These have the 2 decimal places. Don't forget to give yourself some more time by pausing before I show you the answers. Okay, let's go through the answers. 9 doesn't go into 2, carry the 2. 9 goes into 22 twice, remainder 4. 9 goes into 48 5 times, remainder 3. Don't forget to put in your decimal point. 9 goes into 38 4 times, remainder 2, and 9 goes into 27 3 times. So 228.87 divided by 9 is 25.43. Let's do the others really quickly. Did you get the answers to these? Here's an exam question from section A of a level 2 exam. Did you get the correct answer as well? Here's an example of dividing decimals given to you in a functional skills way. Zara needs to buy hair clamps for her hairdressing business that cost her £1.20 each. If she has £54 to buy them, how much can she buy? So what they want us to do is divide the 54 by 1.2. So the trick with this is to make the thing doing the dividing a whole number by moving the decimal place. So it becomes divided by 12. If you move this one decimal place, you have to move the decimal place for this number one decimal place to the right. So it makes this number 540. So 54 divided by 1.2 is the same problem as 540 divided by 12. Whatever the answer is that we get, it's the same for both of them. But this is the easier way to do the division. So let's do the division. 12 doesn't go into 5, carry the 5. 12 goes into 54 4 times, which is 48, remainder 6. 12 goes into 60 5 times. So 12 goes into 540 45 times. So how many can she buy? She can buy 45 hair clamps. So see how we write the answer out in full. If you'd like more practice on adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing decimals, then a good website is mathsaids.com. And here you can create different worksheets using their tools. You don't even have to log in or register. You can just go to the site and create PDF worksheets using random numbers to help you get good at adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing decimals. And that completes our learning outcome to add, subtract, multiply and divide decimals up to 2 decimal places for level 1 and 3 decimal places for level 2.